It's hard to believe that it's hockey season once again, but it is. And I welcome you to another season of In the Crease. Hi, everybody. I'm Fiore, along with my co-host, Bob Nelson. And I got to tell you, the hockey season has just started. There's not a whole lot of meat and potatoes going on just yet, although I'm sure Bob will disagree. But just in the early going, I've got to say from the outset that the state of goaltending has never been worse. I have never seen so many goaltenders playing games ending up with save percentages in the 80s. In the 80s! Last night there was a game, a goaltender gave up 5 goals on 18 shots in the whole game. The goaltending situation has been absolutely abysmal, and I blame Gary Bettman. This is what he wanted. He did not want strong goalies because he wanted scoring increased, so he got these big lugs, and I've said this many times before, he got these big lugs who really can't goaltend. They just play on their knees, they play percentages, and they can get beat. Hell, guys my age can beat them. But before we rant off into that, I got to tell you a little something about last season. We had a bit of a conundrum come up where when the playoffs started and the Stanley Cup went on, Bob and I both had situations come up that kind of kept us from the studio. We had some family matters that we had to take care of, and as a result, we never did get to do a playoff or cup show. But one thing Bob said when we started this season, I got a few things to say. So without any further ado, here is my co-host, Bob Nelson, and his thoughts of the Stanley Cup winner, Florida Panthers, and the playoffs.
So obviously, when you talk about the Florida Panthers, you got to start with how they really won the Cup. And of course, we go back to goaltending because the show is called In the Crease.
Yep.
And when you are the most dominating goalie in the NHL, and I think Bobrovsky dominated. And again, it's proof that good goaltending beats high-powered offenses.
Absolutely.
And when you talk about, I have this argument all the time at work with a young fellow that I work with about Connor McDavid.
Okay.
I don't know if Connor McDavid's the best hockey player on the Edmonton Oilers. I think Draisaitl might be better than him for one reason alone. Connor is a one-dimensional player, puts up a ton of points, fast skater, but that's all good in the offensive zone. But what are you doing in both zones? What are you doing in all 3 zones?
Yeah.
And I think Draisaitl hasn't beaten the other 2 zones.
I think you're right.
Also, if Connor was that great of a hockey player, then on the greatest format of the NHL season, which is the Stanley Cup final, because there is not a better playoff in any sport than the 7 games of the Stanley Cup final. It's better than football. So let's flip a coin in football. You might not always have the best team winning the Super Bowl.
That's true.
Because you only have 1 game to play. In hockey, you are getting the best of the best because to play 7 games, you're going to find out who's the better team out of the thing.
In a 7-game series, the cream always rises.
Correct. So for there, everyone, all these young hockey players want to anoint Connor McDavid as being the best of the best. Well, if he's the best, where's the ring? Where's the hardware?
Yeah.
There is none. Why? Because when you're drafting players and you're making trades and signs and you're calling up players, what's the one thing that Edmonton has never had? A top-notch goaltender.
Well, Dwayne Rollinson was good for them, but that's decades ago.
But Dwayne Rollinson's save percentage was very high. Why? Because Edmonton would give up a boatload of shots.
Yeah.
A boatload of shots. And they had Curtis Joseph.
Yeah, and Grant Fuhrer.
And
back
Andy
in the
Moog.
day.
But that's when the goaltending,
Was
Moog
good.
and Fuhrer dominated.
Yes.
Even though they knew how to play with the high-powered Edmonton's offense.
Yes.
Teams that are built like this have very tough time in the 7-game series of overcoming good goaltending.
Yep.
And again, it came out to again. And look at a team like Carolina. I talk so highly of Carolina and Rob Brendamore. What's Brendamore always has? he has 3 goaltenders usually on his roster, and somehow the defense plays strong enough to get them deep into the playoffs. Now, the last 2 seasons, Carolina went deep into the playoffs.
Yep.
Name their goalies.
Right.
So obviously, coaching is very important. Another key to why Florida went far. And then the third reason why Florida won the Cup is because they got the biggest gnat playing for them that gets under everyone's skin, takes runs at people, takes cheap shots at people, and gets in their head and makes them play not their game.
Talking about Tkachuk.
Talking about Tkachuk.
Yeah.
You know? So you take all that into consideration, and what do you have? After a 7-game final, you have a team hoisting the Stanley Cup because they were the better team.
Yeah, and it wasn't that McDavid didn't try. He did. Bobo just shut him down.
Yes. And the other funny thing is, after the season, you find out when he doesn't perform in the Stanley Cup final, all of a sudden there was a mysterious injury that came up to him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the next day after the Stanley Cup final, he was also seen on jet skis or something on the water. With if you're injured, would you be doing that?
I hear you. And you know, one of the things that I think I might have mentioned this in passing on the show, but there is a deep, deep rivalry between Bobo and Shesterkin for the Rangers. Even though these two are countrymen, they don't like each other.
Correct.
They really don't. And when they play each other, Bobo steps up. He really does. He really wants to beat Shesterkin bad. He does. And that happened last year in the playoffs because I think everybody thought with Shesterkin and then Quick as his backup, everybody was leaning toward the Rangers as a favorite, and everyone was kind of surprised.
Shesterkin really laid an egg in the playoffs.
Well,
I mean, I hate to say he's being a veteran, you know, goaltender and a coach. You know, sometimes when a goalie struggles that bad, and he struggled early on in that series, and you have a Stanley Cup champion, American-born goalie who's probably the 3rd best goalie, you know, in the NHL, American-born goalie, you know, only behind Richter, Van Beesbrook, and Barrasso, in my opinion.
Put him in.
You know, you have your security blanket there.
Yes, you do.
Play him. Yeah. Because even at his ripe age of in his mid-30s, the guy can still stop the puck.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, that
was...
Well,
just the other night, he had a 37-shot shutout for the Rangers.
And the key to veteran goalies like him, they keep themselves in such great physical shape.
Yeah.
And nowadays...
kind of like you and I.
Yeah. Nowadays, when you're an older hockey player, it's a little bit easier to keep yourself in this shape because, you know, every team has, you know, the Quick probably has his own consultant trainer. He probably has his own food diet. He has his own chef probably. You know, and it's a lot easier to play through injuries and things like that when you have all these resources. Like back when we played, you just played. Broken fingers, bruises, ailment, back injuries, knee problems. You just played. You know, and I really believe that the European goalie is definitely taking over the NHL in high storm. I mean, because you forgot about the Islanders goalie that don't like either one of those two guys you mentioned.
That's true.
You know,
that's very
so
true.
It's amazing how, like you said, they can be all from the same country. And all have a lot of dislike for one another.
Yeah, very much so.
Just like Gino and Ovechkin.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like each other when they play against each other. It's a pride thing.
I mean, they play nice for publicity, but
No.
Hey, speaking of goalies, some reporter at the beginning of the year, and I won't name him because you know what he said sounds really stupid, but he did say that he expects this year for goaltenders to score the most goals ever in National Hockey League history. Well, I don't know if he's exactly right. I'll tell you a little bit more about that theory. But first, we did have our very first goalie goal courtesy of the Minnesota Wild. Here's a look.
The whistle after the horn blew at the end of the second.
Buchnevich fires in, looking for a goalie goal. Gustafsson scores! Philip Gustafsson!
So that was Gustafson from the Minnesota Wild, and apparently Fleury told him shoot the puck. He took his advice, he did, and he's got a goal. So far, goalies have scored one goal. The reason I wanted to tell you about a theory about this.
Hey, Smith scored a goal, and he didn't even shoot the puck.
True. When I played, and when I was coaching, especially my kids, I had a philosophy. And that philosophy was, when you get the puck, when the goaltender can get the puck and he doesn't have to freeze it, my philosophy was aim for the scoreboard. You're never going to hit that damn scoreboard. It's never going to happen. But if you fire that puck, aiming for that scoreboard, what you're going to get is similar to a Larry Murphy flip out of the zone. All right? Those of you Penguin fans will know what I'm talking about. This is a great, it worked terrible for teams that worked the old New Jersey trap. But for teams that use the torpedo offense or teams that had fast wingers, this was great because your goaltender truly was a third defenseman. And as soon as that puck hit the stick, bang, roof that sucker, aim for the scoreboard, and that puck would fly over and get out of the zone. Now, that was always my philosophy. That's the way I played. That's the way I told other people to play. I'm sure you're going to disagree.
No.
No?
No.
We're okay on this?
My thought process was, you're a goaltender. The first priority is to stop the puck. Okay? I believe in a little bit more, not that I played that way, but I believe to be a little bit more conservative as a goalie, especially in today's game, because the players are very fast. The players are very fast, and the players can come on you really quick. And the way new goalies are shooting the puck with their hand backwards on their stick,
the Turco way.
If they give up a bad play to shooting the puck down the ice, they're probably going to have the puck go by them because their hand's this way instead of being this way.
Yeah.
And the way I was taught to handle the puck was you put the glove on the bottom of your
just
stick,
like that.
and you have more control on it.
Yes, absolutely.
But a lot of guys don't want to work out at the gym or create their forearm muscles. So therefore, this is easier to shoot the puck. But the problem is when you give up the puck,
you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Good point.
Because now your hands are together instead of being separate. Where even if your hand's not all the way down on top of the stick, you can slide that glove out to make a glove save. By the time you do this, the puck's by you. And that's why when I was coaching, I taught to be a little bit conservative, even though I wasn't conservative, because the problem with guys handling the puck nowadays, they're not as good of a skater as they were back in the 70s and 80s.
Good point.
Because they're on their knees a lot more.
Good point.
Which, again, it becomes, like when Nabokov scored his goal, it was pretty bad. It was lucky to get all the way down the ice. Same with Osgood. I mean, they're not guys like Brodeur and Hextall who can really fire the puck. I'm surprised guys like Van Beesbrook and Barrasso never scored a goal. Because they handle the puck very well.
They did.
And I try to teach goalies they handle the puck like them two guys because it's as important to get an assist or get the puck out of the zone. And those two guys use the wall very well. They stopped the puck properly. They left it behind the net. And I think that's getting missed. And any goalie that thinks he's got to score a goal, look at their goaltending save percentage or look at their goalie average. It's probably not that great. And they got to do some kind of antics like this to get on the
let's
glory
face it,
board.
most goalies don't even practice that.
There's a lot of goalies that practice that.
You think?
Yes.
Shooting it down the ice?
Yes,
I've
absolutely.
never seen it. Not on the pro level.
I can tell you one goalie at the NHL level would take a 5-gallon bucket of puck before and after practice.
And who's that?
It was a guy named Ron Hextall.
Yeah, but he don't play anymore.
And there's about 5 other goalies that do it right now. Fleury's one of them. After he does his shootout, he shoots a lot of pucks down at Gustafson, and Gustafson shoots them back at him. The Bruins boys used to do it constantly.
Allmark and Swayman.
Swayman. They do it a lot.
Yeah, we got a story about them a little later.
There's a goalie in Nashville, the smallest goalie in the NHL. He handles the puck a ton. There's a lot of guys that bring it into their repertoire, but it's the guys that are pretty decent skaters. The guys that play, like you don't see like Varlamov and guys like that, and doing it because they're just big.
Well, okay, you opened this segue, so I've got to put this in here. I have a surprise for you because you mentioned Ron Hextall.
Okay.
The day that we're sitting here taping this show, it was 28 years ago that this happened.
Lace it up to the quad. Flyers have to chase down that. Ron Hextall going to be right in there. Hextall going at the back. Hextall takes back. There we go. But that is not the way to go. It's training Rockets. But nobody's going at it. Taking it right on it. The Hextall got it in. They're goaltenders. Go ahead, Bottas in there against Hextall, but Hextall at the right hand three. There is Hextall inside the goaltenders in. Hextall just gets swinging with the right hand. Mustang is the left free. All that equipment out there for the Flowers Oxford. What an underrated. Yes, folks, the game is on and the Flyers have won, by the way. 3-1. And Hextall thought they're out saying, I'm on it, guys, I'm on you.
All righty, I had to throw that in there because it's no big secret. Bob is probably the consummate Flyers fan, and he is a huge fan of Ronnie Hextall. So that was Ron Hextall and Felix the Cat Potvin from days of old when goaltending
he's
was
licking his paws after that.
Yeah, it was goaltending. Now, Bob, I got to throw this over to you again because there were some off-season moves. Summer was pretty busy for a lot of teams, and there were some key goaltender moves as well. And I know you have some thoughts on that, so show's yours.
Let's just say the offseason was very disappointing for me.
Okay.
Very
why?
watered down. I think teams made a better decision to call up their young prospects and have them start the season on their team.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Because there was a lot of free agents that weren't very good. Like on the forward side of thing, I think Getzel was probably the biggest off-season move.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
He's a very good player,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying there was few and far between.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine, who's been a big disappointment after being, drafted. He ended up going to Montreal. And again, when those are your two big name forwards, free agent movement, Penguins signed Hayes, fourth line guy. That does nothing for me. You look at the goaltending, like Ullmark to Ottawa. Okay. Boston should have never got rid of him.
Yes.
They should have never got rid of him.
Especially before they signed Swayman.
Correct. And what they got back in return is pretty bad. And what Boston, because Boston switched with Ottawa and they got, I can't even think of his name. He wears number 70. It tells you how good of a goalie he is. Probably thinks he's going to be back in him.
Korpisalo,
which is, I
Jonas
think, terrible.
Korpisalo and Swayman are not the same tandem.
No. And to me, when you traded Swayman's buddy away, you gave him all the power in the world to ask whatever he wanted.
Interesting you bring that up because, and I don't know if you heard this, but Swayman and Ullmark they're tight.
They're very close.
They're very, very tight.
Yes, you saw the game they played recently.
Yes. And I think it's safe to say that's unusual for goaltending pairs. Usually there's a competitive edge there.
That's very unusual.
Yes.
I mean, it takes a special person to get along with your other goalie. And, the only other person I can think of wherever he's played has been that guy, has been Marc-Andre Fleury. Other than that, I can't, I mean, like, it's just unheard of.
Yes.
Like, I mean, if you've been, Penguin fan for all these years, I mean, just go back to Barrasso, how he treated the backup goalie.
Yeah.
It's just
there's a lot of competition.
It's not normal.
Yeah, that's because there's only two of them on the team.
Correct.
But the conspiracy theories that I heard, and I'll mention them now, are that Ullmark and Swayman colluded over their contracts.
Correct.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
I heard that Ullmark going to Ottawa pretty much told the team, whatever Jeremy gets, you match it with me.
Correct.
And because originally when he was signed, his contract wasn't 6 years, $66 million.
Well, he was the older of the two.
Right. And when Swayman signed that, 6 years, $66 million. It was what, 2 days later?
Yes.
And Allmark came up with the exact same thing. And my sources say that those two actually worked in tandem behind the scenes to work the system.
Because they realized they couldn't
Did you hear that, too?
Yes. They couldn't make money playing together.
Yeah.
There was no way a team was going to pay $12 million in two goaltenders.
Yeah.
So I heard that one of them and Allmark wanted to move on. He didn't want to go to Ottawa.
Yeah.
But Ottawa was the team that bellied up because they needed a goalie.
Yeah.
They needed a number one guy, and they were willing to pay the money, especially at his age because he is a little bit older.
Yeah. That is really rare for goaltenders. I mean, I could see you and I being devious like that, but
yeah,
you know, normally see normal guys.
And the other move I didn't understand was why Vegas gave up Thompson to Washington.
You know, that was a big move for Washington because Kemper wasn't. He was fizzling out down there.
And then they turned around and traded Kemper to L.A.
Yeah, and he seems to be more comfortable in L.A.
But the biggest trade for goaltending, and I don't think it's lived up to the billing, was Markstrom to New Jersey. Or not Markstrom, 25, what's his name? Went from Vancouver to New Jersey.
Vancouver to New Jersey? I'm pulling up a...
Yeah, Markstrom.
Yeah, he's a goalie.
Yeah, he's in New Jersey now.
He's not a top-name goalie.
But he was the top-name free agent goalie on the market, believe it or not.
I think whatever team he goes to is irrelevant because he's not going to make a difference.
Well, he went to Jersey, and Jersey was ecstatic about it because they haven't had a legitimate goalie since Brodeur. But all these goalie moves, but you look at all these young goalies like Bloomquist in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He's been okay. Hasn't been great.
No.
Penguins have a lot of goalie issues. They have 3 goalies, which means you have no goalies.
Yeah.
They just send Jory back to the minors.
Yeah. Finally, he's starting to show what I've been saying all along.
But, you look at Philadelphia's situation. They started the young goalie, and he's the first one out of Belarus to start an NHL game. And I can't think of his name right now either. Philadelphia has a Russian goalie in Ivan.
Yep.
I think Sammy's their best out of the 3. They're ranked the worst goaltending tandem to start the season. They were ranked 32nd overall, which I don't know how they can be ranked 32nd and Pittsburgh can be ranked 18th because I think Pittsburgh goalie's as bad as Philadelphia's goalie. The only difference, Philadelphia has younger guys and Pittsburgh has older guys.
Yeah, and you can't see a coach like Tortorella staying with that situation for long.
I don't know if Tortorella's going to have his job.
Well,
he keeps benching his best player, the fifth overall pick, who was Rookie of the Month in October.
Yeah, they're talking about him and Boston's coach, Jim Sweeney. Both are on the hot seat.
I think there's going to be a lot of coaches by the All-Star break might not have a job.
Interesting pickup. All right, that brings us down to the final section of our show, D block, if you will. And in that block, we are going to make our very early predictions for the season. And I've got to tell you right off the bat that, Bob, I am totally unimpressed with every team. I do not see any team doing any good. Now, I know
I'll give you Vegas's odds real quick. Okay. The Vegas #1 pick to win the Cup this year are the Oilers.
Oh, I can't see Stewart being a goalie that can win them the Cup. No.
#2 is Dallas.
Dallas is strong.
Okay.
Yeah, Dallas is strong.
#3, Carolina.
Carolina's a good sleeper.
2024 Stanley Cup champion, Florida. And #5, the New York Rangers.
Rangers have a good goaltender.
I'm actually surprised that the Winnipeg Jets are not up on this listing.
Okay, we were talking about this before the camera started rolling, and it comes down to Connor Hellebuck. And you're impressed with him. He has put up some amazing stats early.
I'm not impressed with him. I just think he's the best of the worst.
Okay.
And if you're talking American-born goalies, and you're talking about how many pucks he stops, and you're talking about the shutouts that he accumulates, he's one of the better goalies right now to start the season.
Here's my problem with him, as with a lot of other goalies. It's early in the season. I think at this taping, the Jets are like 15-1 or something like that. and he's carried the bulk of the weight.
You got to tip your hat to him.
He's played very well, but Connor Hellebuyck is like a lot of other goaltenders in that if there's nothing on the line, he can play out his butt and look like a superstar. But when the game is on the line, he can't pull it out.
But see, here's the situation with a guy like him playing on a team like that. Okay, last year, this year, Edmonton was atrocious to start the season. They were bad.
Okay.
I know McDavid was hurt a little bit. Again, I talk about no defenseman, no star defenseman on the Oilers, and below the line goaltending.
Yeah.
You look at the teams that are on this list. Most of these teams that are up here, besides Edmonton, what do they have? They have goaltending, or they have good team defense. Like,
yes.
Again, Carolina named their goalies. They usually have 2 or 3 of them.
Yep.
Anderson, the Russian, for Carolina. Brendamore coaches a good defensive sound system. Yep. They don't have great players, but they have a good team work ethic. Then you look at Florida. They have the diamond in the rough with Bobrovsky. Stanley Cup experience, a gold medal experience. You go to Dallas, Ottinger's pretty good goaltending.
Yeah, he is.
You go to the Rangers. I think they have the best goaltending situation. They have the best 2 on the list.
Absolutely.
You know, I can tell you probably take Edmonton off that list because not only they played the most games last year besides the Florida Panthers, they traveled the furthest besides maybe Calgary.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't consider them to be a repeat. Just for the simple fact that they're tired.
Yeah.
You take into consideration Dallas. I don't think Dallas has that one player that can get them over the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm taking them off my list. Carolina are always a dark horse because you just don't know how to play them.
Yeah.
And they play teams really hard.
Yeah.
They play physical. They have good defense. You know, Jordan Stahl is their captain, and they play exactly the way Stahl plays. Grind, good defense. I think Brendamore is one of the best coaches in the NHL.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Then you look at Florida. How do you not consider them?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same team.
You know? And then you have the Rangers.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a couple teams that are going to change during the season, maybe have a big surge going into the playoff run, because usually sometimes those low seeds, they do a lot of damage in the playoffs because no one takes them, you know, the whole season has been a playoff for them.
Yeah.
And some of the teams that are up there, that's what I think is going to hurt Winnipeg. I really do, because, you know, not only, you know, Bettman kind of has this situation that he doesn't like these Canadian teams making it far in the Stanley Cup because they don't get the great ratings, which I don't know where he's looking at it, because if you try to get a ticket in Toronto, or you try to get a ticket in Montreal, try to get a ticket in Oilers country, you can't.
Yeah.
They're sellouts.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about if it's not good for the sport?
Yeah.
You know, not that they've invented hockey, but you might as well tell them they invented hockey, even though their world sport is box lacrosse and not hockey. But you know, I think it might be good for hockey to get a Canadian team back into the Stanley Cup final and maybe give them a cup.
Could be. Well, you know, there's a whole lot more we can talk about at this stage, but we are fresh out of time. So we're going to have to save all the other comments for the next show, and hopefully by the next show, we'll have a little better report on the goaltending. Hopefully things will settle down a bit, but I'm not being optimistic. That's going to wrap up this edition, our first edition of the season for In the Crease. And remember, on behalf of Bob, Dave, and I, if you're in the game, you're in the crease.
Marc-Andre Fleury.
How about this? Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang never left the ice. As Marc-Andre Fleury is named the #1 star, not only is that respect, but that's just flat out love for the Flower.